Good day, learners. Welcome to our math lesson. For today, we will be discussing about converse, inverse, and contrapositive of an if-then form. Before we proceed with our discussion, let us first recall about the conditional statement. With this given statement, a triangle is a polygon. What is the if-then form? Yes. So the if-then form of this given statement could be, if a shape is a triangle, then it is a polygon. Conditional statement or the if-then form is written in the form if P then Q. It is made up of two clauses, P for the if clause and Q for the then clause. P statement is the hypothesis and Q statement is the conclusion. In this given conditional statement, if a shape is a triangle, then it is a polygon. The hypothesis is a shape is a triangle, and the conclusion, it is a polygon. For this lesson, you are expected to determine the converse, inverse, and contrapositive of an if-then statement. Let us discuss them one by one. Converse statement. It is a statement obtained by reversing the hypothesis and conclusion of a conditional statement. It is written in the form if Q, then P. Let's have this example. The if-then form is, if a shape is a triangle, then it is a polygon. If-then form is in the form if P, then Q, emphasizing the word triangle in the P statement and the word polygon in the Q statement. So to identify the converse, we have to follow the statement if Q, then P. And that is, if a shape is a polygon, then it is a triangle. Next we have the inverse statement. It is a statement formed by negating the hypothesis and conclusion of a conditional statement. It is written in the form if not P, then not Q. For example, the if-then form is, if a shape is a triangle, then it is a polygon. How to identify the inverse statement? Following the statement, if not P, then not Q. From the if-then form, the P statement is, a shape is a triangle, and the Q statement is, it is a polygon. So, the inverse of this statement is, if a shape is not a triangle, then it is not a polygon. How about the contrapositive statement? It is a statement formed by taking the negation of the hypothesis and conclusion of a conditional statement, then interchanging them. It is written in the form if not Q, then not P. Using the same example, if a shape is a triangle, then it is a polygon. Emphasizing the word triangle in the P statement and the word polygon in the Q statement. To identify the contrapositive, we need to follow the statement if not Q, then not P. So we have, if a shape is not a polygon, then it is not a triangle. Let's try another example. The if-then form is, if two angles are vertical, then they are congruent. To identify the converse, you have to reverse the hypothesis and the conclusion. So that is, if two angles are congruent, then they are vertical. Inverse statement negate the hypothesis and the conclusion. following the statement, if not P, then not Q. From the if-then form, if two angles are vertical, then they are congruent. Its inverse is, if two angles are not vertical, then they are not congruent. How about the contrapositive of the statement, if two angles are vertical, then they are congruent? Contrapositive statement also negates the hypothesis and the conclusion. It follows the statement, if not Q, then not P. So, the contrapositive of the given statement is, if two angles are not congruent, then they are not vertical. Okay, learners, try this activity. Identify the converse, inverse, and contrapositive of this statement. If you are a good citizen, then you obey rules and regulations. Take note, the P statement here is, you are a good citizen, and the Q statement is, you obey rules and regulations. You may now start answering. Okay, converse statement follows the statement, if Q, then P. So, we have, if you obey rules and regulations, then you are a good citizen. How about the inverse statement? It follows the statement, if not P, then not Q. We have the statement, if you are not a good citizen, then you do not obey rules and regulations. And for the contrapositive, it follows the statement, if not Q, then not P. That is, if you do not obey rules and regulations, then you are not a good citizen. For the second statement, if a figure is a square, then it is a quadrilateral. The P statement is, a figure is a square. The Q statement is, it is a quadrilateral. You're going to identify the converse, inverse, and contrapositive of this statement. Your timer starts now. The converse of this statement is, if a figure is a quadrilateral, then it is a square. Inverse statement is, if a figure is not a square, then it is not a quadrilateral. And for the contrapositive, we have, if a figure is not a quadrilateral, then it is not a square. Good job, learners! To sum it up, conditional statement follows the pattern, if P, then Q. Converse follows the pattern, if Q, then P. Inverse follows the pattern, if not P, then not Q. And contrapositive follows the pattern, if not Q, then not P. It's activity time. Choose the correct answer. Number 1. What is the inverse of the statement, if you live in the Philippines, then you are Filipino? A. If you are not a Filipino, then you do not live in the Philippines. B. If you are a Filipino, then you live in the Philippines. C. If you do not live in the Philippines, then you are not a Filipino. And letter D. If you live in the Philippines, then you are not a Filipino. The correct answer is letter C. If you do not live in the Philippines, then you are not a Filipino. Question number 2. Which of the following is the contrapositive of the statement, if the lines are parallel, then they do not intersect? Letter A. If the lines intersect, then they are not parallel. Letter B. If the lines do not intersect, then they are parallel. Letter C. If the lines are not parallel, then they intersect. And letter D. If the lines are not parallel, then they do not intersect. The correct answer is letter A. If the lines intersect, then they are not parallel. Number 3. Given the conditional statement, if 3x minus 2 is equal to 10, then x is equal to 4. The statement, if x is equal to 4, then 3x minus 2 is equal to 10 is its blank. A. Inverse. B. Converse. C. Conclusion. Or letter D. Contrapositive. The correct answer is letter B. It is its converse.